Hey, welcome back to Defending Utah Television. Enoch Moore, you've seen him in our speeches. You haven't seen him on our show recently, but he's still here and active, and he is here to share his experience with the Cromars. This is another Cromar update. If you're not aware of what's going on with Ken and Barbara Cromar, check out our past videos on that. We'll put some links in the description here just to keep you up to speed. But if you are, there's been some updates. If you remember our last video, we talked about how he was arrested Friday night. And Friday, that is last week. I can't remember the date of last Friday right now. But, and then we showed in that video some of the news here. Enoch, as well as Micah, were the great fake pandemic shirts were made it on the nighttime news. And as well as Micah screaming "no due process," as well as you made a little
somebody had to
cameo
tell,
as well.
somebody had to tell the truth, and the news wasn't.
Exactly.
So Micah had to yell "no due process," and the message got on camera, so that was good. So there's a chance somebody could hear. I feel like there's a couple mixed messages going on here, so maybe that was helpful.
Yeah, and we'll kind of talk a little bit about that. And then there was another thing, and then on. He was released on bail on Saturday morning. And then Saturday evening, while trying to get some replacement for clothes because the police wouldn't let him get his own property, his own clothes at the house he was at his house, and as well as other religious items that he was trying to get, and they arrest him again for Saturday night, claiming that he had violated parole.
Yeah, they had six. I think what we heard was 6 cop cars showed up outside Deseret Book.
In American Fork.
In American Fork?
Yeah.
Yep. And so how can that many cop cars be sent out? It's just...
It's dangerous.
It seems like such overkill, right? Like, can they use this kind of force to defend people's rights?
No. That's ridiculous. Why would you even ask that? That's just insane.
That would mean we live in a free country, right?
Yeah.
Isn't that
that's what that would mean,
hope, right?
That's what that would mean.
And instead, those who say we should follow the law of the land, which is the Constitution, get this kind of treatment, right? So, black is white, up is down, and
so they claim that he had violated the terms of parole, which they had to actually kind of sheepishly let him go on Sunday afternoon
because there were no terms.
It didn't happen.
There were no terms, right? So who got the message that there were terms of parole without reading
the parole,
the paperwork that showed there was no pretrial agreement?
Right. So, and then there's some things happening, and then Monday he was at his Zoom trial or whatever, online trial. Pre-trial, whatever they were doing. And then the judge had to recuse himself because it was found out there was a conflict of interest. And then on Tuesday, they had another one that, and then there's some things that are happening that they want to do this coming Thursday. So tomorrow, so it's October 1st. We're recording this late on Wednesday evening, September 30th. And before we get into that, though, we want to let you know about that. You want to know about that. But before we do that, we wanted to show you some things, how the media reacts and how the government is reacting right now when you actually stand for the truth. So we're going to do we're going to share with you the video of a highlight reel, and in the link as well, we'll do the full. So it's not edited. You can go look at everything that happened and judge for yourself. But we're going to do a little highlight reel and do some commentary of what happened there. Behind the scenes with the news, as well as with a deputy in the sheriff's department here, Spencer Cannon. And Mike actually has had experience with Spencer Cannon before. We talked about this in our last show as well, how it was Spencer Cannon that Mike had talked to when the sheriff's department actually had a DUI checkpoint
without a warrant
blocking my driveway for an entire weekend. So, and then he called him up and said what a warrant was. The Fourth Amendment actually says you have to have a person and the place and the thing to be searched. It can't be a blanket warrant to search anybody that comes within, X feet of something. And so they were on the phone for a long time. So that's a little bit of background on Spencer Cannon.
All we're asking for in our elected officials who swear an oath to the Constitution is that they understand what's in it.
that they actually swore an oath to.
Yeah, how can you swear an oath to something that you've never read, or you don't understand, or you seemingly are willfully ignorant of, right? What elected sheriff doesn't know what a warrant is?
Okay, let's go and play this. Okay, we'll play this so you can kind of hear what's being said. Because here you go.
All I know is that the judge has made an order. He doesn't like it, obviously, but we help support court orders, and when a home is sold, you can't just go move back in, and that's what he did.
Well, that's the problem is they took his house, they put it on the IRS auction before he had a trial.
You don't necessarily have to have a trial in order to be able to have a seizure.
Okay, he's saying you don't have to have due process or a trial to prove that you're guilty of something before the government can steal your stuff. Yeah, I guess that's
innocent
true.
Still proven guilty.
With that's why it's a big problem with civil asset forfeiture. The government just takes your stuff. That's illegal. He's saying the Constitution says before anything over $20 is taken away from you, you have to have a trial.
Trial by jury, even.
Right.
Don't you need due process before you lose your property?
Well, I'm not even talking about what you're talking about, because you're talking about the foreclosure thing, and I'm like, yeah, sure, that's fine. But we're talking about taking the house away before the due process. If somebody has been lawfully evicted, I'm like totally with you.
He thinks there was no due process. You think there was no due process.
Correct.
The court disagrees with you.
There's been no trial.
There's no trial on the docket.
Not every course of due process ends with a trial.
It does if the defendant wants it to.
Okay, that's the key right there. He's obfuscating because he knows that he's wrong. The only time you don't have a trial to have due process is when you A, did a plea bargain, or B, you pled guilty. Other than that, if you plead innocent, you got to have a trial.
The Seventh Amendment is clear that the right of trial by jury shall be preserved. Unless his house is only worth $19. Okay? If his house is worth $19, then maybe constitutionally
there you go.
They're okay, right? But anything $20 or more.
We should look into the county assessor valuing the house at $20 or 19. That'd be pretty funny. Okay.
And he has wanted it.
You'll have to take that up with the federal prosecutors and with the judge. As to why.
So you feel due process has been...
He's like, take it up with the judge. Okay, give a trial, and we will, right? That's the whole point. For 3 years, they've been asking for their trial because they've had the evidence, and an accusation is made. Hey, you guys owe money. He's like, okay, great. Show me. I think I paid everything I owe. Show me what I owe. I'll show you why I think I do or don't, and then we'll due process. We'll have it decided, and then we'll take action.
If the jury says that I owe X, then that's what we got to do.
He says he'll pay everything he owes. He has willingly always said that. The homeowner has, Mr. Cromar. So give him the trial. And now here he's saying, well, take it up with the judge. That's the point of the trial. So you can take it up with the judge and the jury.
But you've already stolen his house, literally sold it and given it to somebody else without due process. So
given, even though there's been no trial. Is that what you're saying?
Even though
I'm not
even though the defendant has wanted a trial.
I believe the process has been fair. Not necessarily. You're going to have to talk to the prosecutors. Okay,
but he has the right to life, liberty, and property. The Fourth Amendment says he's securing his papers, persons, houses, and effects. It even says houses.
Mm-hmm. But it wasn't his house when he went back in there.
It was his house before it was taken, without due process.
Okay.
He had a title for it. When he went back into his house, it was in his name.
Yeah, that's all you need. Who owns the house? Here's the title. My name's on it. Done deal, right? And they evicted him while he had a title. That means anybody right now in the entire country can be evicted from their home that they own if the same process happens. You have a title,
owned, free, and clear. It was owned. The bank didn't own it. He owned it. He had the title, and that's a key point right there, because there's evidence coming out that suggests that criminal conspiracy between the person that bought it from the IRS and the county, where they created a false and illegal title.
A second title, right?
Title.
So you have one title. They couldn't, meaning the people who
bought it from the IRS illegally.
They couldn't get the title from Cromar. because they hadn't actually purchased it validly. So because they couldn't get the title and transfer it legally, probably if they tried to, then too many people would see the shady deal going on. So they invented a new title out of thin air, right? That's, counterfeiting, document fraud, right? So now there's 2 titles. And so the second eviction was based on the guy having the fake title. There's actually emails that evidence available of the new owner speaking to, I don't know if it was the IRS or just some of the co-conspirators involved, saying, if you don't get me a title, I want my money back, right? So there was clearly some problem getting the title because it wasn't legally purchased, and total mess. So where's the due process?
I have to talk to the prosecutors about it. I'm not going to be able to satisfy you with an answer. Any answer I can give isn't going to satisfy you tonight.
Well, it's because it doesn't seem like you're using the appropriate discretion.
What do you mean discretion? You mean that we should choose not to enforce a court order?
Yeah, because it's violating the Fourth Amendment.
Well, I would disagree with you, but I can't explain all the legalese about it.
Because you're talking about aftermath.
That's your job, okay? As an officer, as a representative of the sheriff's department, and as the public relations officer in charge of the sheriff's department, it is your job to be able to explain that, A, to a voter, and B, to the public in both of those positions.
And more importantly, to understand it yourself
before
you take action to harm someone. Because you better make sure that the order you're enforcing is valid, and that you can explain it.
Right.
If I write on a napkin in crayons, that's mine, go get it for me.
If you're wearing a magic black robe, sure.
And I'm not talking about that. I understand what you're talking about there. I'm saying before that, when his house was seized. That's what I'm talking about beforehand. Because if that is incorrect, and I argue that it is, then everything after is even worse.
You'll have to argue that with prosecutors, not with me. No answer I give you tonight is going to satisfy you.
They already sold his house.
Right, they did, yeah. And the court said that was okay. I know you guys disagree with the court's order, but the fact is the court did order it.
The powers are supposed to be separated. You're not supposed to just do whatever you're told. That's crazy. There's no reason to have separate branches if you guys just do whatever the other branch says.
If we believe what the other branch is saying, we have no reason to think they're telling us something illegal.
And so, anyway, I understand what you're saying.
I'm done.
They haven't investigated it. They're just doing whatever they're told. They're rubber stampers.
Yeah, there's lots of reasons why they shouldn't believe. And
if they'd looked into it, they would have figured that out.
Mr. Cromar reached out to the sheriff's office before this event and gave them evidence and asked them, please listen to the, this WebEx they did and see how, fraudulent it was, and tried to give them the information. Look at the court docket and see that there was never, a trial, and I never got to defend myself. He had the opportunity to see why the other branch was lying to him.
That shows you that Sheriff Smith doesn't give a rat's about the law.
There is nothing I say to you tonight is going to give you an answer that's going to satisfy you.
Well, of course not.
About what we're doing here tonight. It's not going to change what we're doing here tonight.
Because you haven't even addressed what I'm asking about. You're talking about after the
You're right, and I'm not going to, because nothing I say will satisfy you. Nothing.
Address it. He hasn't tried to. He's just saying, I'm not going to.
Yeah, I'm not going to make you happy, so I'm not going to even try to talk. But yeah, that's
his job.
He's completely avoiding the main question on the original due process and just talking about everything that happened afterwards.
People talk about constitutional sheriffs. This guy is not accountable to the people. He thinks he can do whatever he wants, and he is not abiding by the Constitution.
About an hour and a half or so ago, I don't know the exact time, but within
So now this is getting over to an interview on the news that the sheriff's deputy was on. I think it was ABC4 or something, and what was going on behind the scenes with that.
The last couple of hours, the deputies and detectives with the Utah County Sheriff's Office arrested Mr. Paul Kenneth Cromar. His wife was arrested a short time later. There were a couple of other people taken into custody. I believe we still have them detained, but they're going to be released here shortly. This is a long-term situation involving Mr. Cromar and the federal government's assertion that he went many years without paying taxes. A federal court issued an order that his home be seized for no due process.
Yeah, it's their assertion. No jury, nobody has ever ruled, nobody has ever found any of these things to be accurate.
The evidence hasn't even been presented against him,
yeah.
Right? And then you hear Micah So this is
No
where
due process on the news.
Yeah. Go back like 5 seconds so we can hear it. This is going live, and and Micah's explaining what's really going on.
The federal court issued an order that his home be seized for
No due process.
a debt of over $1 million in taxes, and the home was seized by the federal government.
All you guys do is
it was
lie.
then sold by the federal government.
No, because every time we do something, you come.
So Micah's talking to the news, one of the cameramen, because he's saying, just let us do our job. Just let us do our job of lying.
He's like, come on, man, right? And then he's calling them out, and yeah, it was kind of.
It was sold. The new owner took possession of that home, and Mr. Cromar and his wife and their family moved back into the home illegally, saying
No due process.
Saying that they moved back in is a euphemism.
No trial.
Is a euphemism for saying that they illegally took possession of the home.
No illegality.
When
She's wearing the it's funny, she's has that mask, she's wearing the mask, she's got that pole, the mic on a pole, and Micah was saying that when they were there that she was only wearing a mask on the news. As soon as the camera was off,
Right,
she took
take
the
it
mask off. It's
Yeah.
all, they know it's a fraud. It's a fake pandemic. Everybody knows it. If you're believing it, you're believing the lies that you're being told. No, but the reporters don't even believe it.
after he was arrested and we went to the home, there were several people there, supporters of Mr. Cromar.
No trial.
Who were armed with rifles and handguns. There were no shots fired, no threats made.
That's something else that Micah said, that that's a lie, that there were no guns there, that they, before anything went down, they kind of smelled something fishy, and they wanted to avoid a situation in this circumstance, and they actually removed any weapons from the home and from the situation. So it's just a complete lie.
Well, I will tell you, though, that up to this point, our conversation has been respectful.
You're the only one that gets a side to these people.
No, you have a story to tell. I'm sure that some of these people will be happy to talk to you.
We've given them plenty of interviews and documents, and every time they just manipulate things.
You don't like to let the other side give their side, despite the fact that it disagrees with you, or maybe because it disagrees with you.
You're literally accusing me of the exact thing that's going on here.
And that's exactly what happened. Is he's completely manipulating. The news completely manipulates. We've talked about this before. Scott Bradley was interviewed by Dr. Scott Bradley was interviewed by KSL for.
We had a 25-minute interview.
Yeah.
And they took 5 seconds out of it. That wasn't even what he was saying.
It was completely irrelevant to most of the conversation. And so the media completely manipulates and twists anything that will actually tell the actual story that's going on. They're only telling the government's line.
And in fact, this lady that is interviewing the Mr. Cannon right now, that lady, we approached them earlier, but we just saw them with cameras. So like maybe half an hour before this, roughly speaking. And we wondered if they had information. We were kind of, trying to learn what was going on. And so we just asked them, have you guys already heard about what's going on? They're like, no, we don't know. I'm like, how did you guys know something was going down? They're like, oh, we just listened to the police scanner radio, which I don't know if I totally believe that, right? Like maybe they did. It's possible, I guess. But we were just trying to get information.
How do they know that the police show up to people's houses all the time? How do they know this was a newsworthy?
Yeah, so that's why it's kind of
it's fishy.
It is fishy. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But I don't know either one way or another.
Sure.
But that's what they said. So for the record.
Sure.
And then we said, well, do you guys want to know what's happening? Right. And so they're like, we'll give you a chance. But so back then we just went up to them and started giving them the story, the legitimate story, right? And they're like, well, no, tell us what happened. We're like, well, there's this guy, he didn't have due process a long time ago. He was kicked out of his house, and then we did this. And so we were just giving some basic background on, the high level problem. And she was just like, oh, so he didn't pay his taxes. Oh, so that, and she already had in her mind
twisting
that she
everything.
was there to like mess it up. And we weren't even on camera yet. And she wasn't like an investigator going, oh, that's interesting. Like, what do you mean? Like asking clarifying questions to learn the story.
Just putting words in your mouth.
Yeah. She was totally trying to put words in our mouth. And it was like, she works for the news. So she's just naturally, automatically that evil about it. or did she already know? And so she was just practicing the twisting she knew she already had to do. I don't know. It was just very odd. It wasn't an investigative, inquisitive mind that I was speaking to. And we're just like, okay, you guys clearly just don't want to hear the story, right? And it's not like, oh, well, you didn't agree with us. It wasn't even any of that. We were just trying to get the basic first bits of information to tell them. And it's like, where are you even
And she
getting
immediately
this
just
from?
starts lying about it, about what they just said, repeating it back to them in a completely opposite way.
Yeah.
My favorite.
Well,
and yours.
I mean, the discussion we were having was perfectly reasonable.
No, it wasn't.
Until you started
because you're all
hollering
still
during an
here.
interview.
That's what you don't understand.
inconsiderate.
Actually, you do understand.
I do understand.
You do understand it, which makes you really bad. If you didn't understand, you would be innocently doing a very bad
So you can
thing.
do the same disrespectful thing and holler while she's interviewing you too?
Your opinion is disrespectfful.
Can you please
Not my
respect the
opinion.
fact we're just trying to do our job?
No. Every time that we've given you guys interviews and stuff, you always twist it. Always twist it.
I'm not going to respect you because you're going to just, everything you're doing is a complete lie.
I don't even know you.
It's your genre of public TV people.
All I know is that we're just trying to do our job. If you want to have an opportunity for an interview, we can gladly interview you. It's all good.
You will take my story and twist it. That's all you
When
do.
they quote your words, it's hard to twist them.
That's the problem. They don't
I would love it if you quoted my words.
Okay. Press release and everything with similar to do.
I take my oath as a Marine Corps infantryman to defend the Constitution very seriously.
Okay. So do I. My oath is the United States Army as well.
You do not.
Laughing at this, it's not a laughing matter.
So yeah, that's what happened before that. Even if you couldn't hear it, the media people were just laughing about the
Right.
whole situation.
Right. Just making fun of the Cromars and then what's going on, as if they're just like, oh, another dumb tax guy or whatever.
Right.
Right. It was just laughing about it.
And so this has been developed, right? We just talked about how they were, again, he was arrested on Saturday again on the same charges, but claiming it was on the same exact charges he was arrested for on Friday night and already let go. But then they claimed that it was they arrested him for a violation. But when you look at the paperwork, it was just the same exact charges that they were arrested for before. And so it's just a complete fraud. So we actually found out some information. So after the court hearing they had on Tuesday, they have the prosecutor wants to have another hearing for Thursday. So that's the 1st at 1:30 p.m. with the intent to remove bail from the situation. They've already been given bail. They've already been released. And now the prosecutor wants to take away bail and put them back in prison because they are, quote unquote, a danger to the community.
These are not the tactics of an honorable system.
There's been no threats of violence. There's been no violence. There have been no guns pointed at the government. The only guns have been pointed has been by the government. They're the ones that have been violent and dangerous to the community. And the prosecutor said that they were dangerous because the Cromars were associated. They knew people, okay? That's the first thing, is just because they knew people is the first thing. But who are those people that the Cromars know? Ammon and Cliven Bundy group, okay? Ammon and Cliven Bundy have never been convicted of a crime. The things that they are famous for, they have been released from by a jury of their peers, or a judge, a corrupt judge has let them go. There have been zero things that have been that they've been prosecuted for regarding violence. So to say that because you're associated with unviolent people that have not been convicted of a crime makes you a danger to the community shows that this prosecutor is an evil man.
In fact, I just watched The Hunger Games, where President Snow, the evil dictator, right? He blew up a hospital when he said, let's show them the punishment for being friends with the Mockingjay, right? And it was like the Mockingjay came to like just see if they're okay in the hospital and meet them. And so he's like, well, they just because they know them. So that's what they're doing. The association of just knowing somebody, it was characterized as only an evil person would make that kind of attack.
Exactly. And so it might be good for folks to be able to call up the Utah County Sheriff and let them know how you feel. 801-851-4000. 801-851-4000, as well as the Utah County prosecutor, and let them know that it's pretty dishonest and horrible of them to actually accuse somebody of being violent when they've never been violent and never threatened violent. You have the Utah County Attorney's phone numbers, 801-851-8026, 801-851-8026. Those are the people that have the power right now to be able to let Ken and Barbara go, because they have not violated the law, they have had not due process, and in fact now they are being harassed and lied about and threatened with violence.
You know, and the reason all these shenanigans are going on is because at the end of the day, if the feds had evidence that they owed the money they claim they owe, they would have shown it.
Just
a
put it
long
on
time
trial.
ago.
Be easy and be done with.
Right. Yeah. Do the trial. Here's the paper. Look, they signed it. They owed it. Here's what they should have paid. They didn't pay. There's the evidence. They'd say, oh, okay, take their house. Right? It'd be so simple. But years and years of this dragging on, and now that they're in this situation, they're still playing games. Oh, they know the Bundys. What? You're distracting with that, because just go back to the evidence you say you've had years ago, because the Cromars have their defense and they're ready to show that there's nothing against them. Why don't they give them the due process? This is just basic fundamental. That's all we're asking for everybody. We'll make this same defense for everybody. Everybody deserves due process. They've been denied. This is not about taxes.
Not at all.
This has nothing to do with
Kind of
taxes.
like the fake pandemic has nothing to do with masks. It's a bigger issue. This has nothing to do with taxes.
This is about everybody gets due process. If we believe in the Constitution, we believe everyone gets due process. Take your accusation before a judge. You're innocent until proven guilty.
And not due process for the accusation of burglary. That's after the fact. Because they need to have the trial that had their house taken away from them. That's where the due process is needed right now. They're going to say, oh yeah, we're going to give them due process for burglary. No. You can't burgle your own house.
Right. You got to go back to the beginning.
Right. That's what that, and so they're going to play a bait and switch with you and try to say, oh yeah, they're getting the due process now for burglaring their own house.
Show the evidence publicly. Show the evidence. Just put it out there. Say, hey everyone, we've got.
Yeah.
You know, we've got the.
What are you guys hiding?
Right. And show it. They're not showing it. They haven't shown it for years.
Yeah. You need to, the county attorney needs to know that they cannot get away with these kinds of lies, accusing people of being violent simply for knowing somebody that isn't violent. 801-851-8026. They've got to hear from you right now. Leave a message if you're listening to this overnight. All morning long, they need to be getting this message, because this is just unacceptable behavior at every level of Utah County government. I think this about wraps it up. I am Ben McClintock here in studio with Enoch Moore from defendingutah.org. If you like what we do here, we ask you to support us either by going to defendingutah.org and becoming a member, or check out our new YouTube membership starting at as low as $1.99 a month. Until next time, I am Ben McClintock from defendingutah.org.
We have before us the opportunity to forge a new world order.
We hope that a vaccine's on its way.
During my baby's last precious hours.
They are not related.
And then this one Salt Lake City police car was just parked on the side of the road.